Live from the backstretch at historic Saratoga Racecourse, this is Saturdays at the Spa with Brian Nadeau.
Welcome to Saturdays at the Spa. Brian Nadeau with you on the first Saturday of the Saratoga meet, and we had a really big Friday, so this is our first show of the Saratoga meet. We kind of had a soft opening last Saturday, with closing weekend at Belmont Park, but we've got a really big show today. Really excited. We've got Brad Cox a little bit later, Travis Stone as well, and my first guest, though, we're really happy that he took the time to come over, and I know what is a very busy weekend for him, the president, CEO of NYRA. Chris Kay joins us. Chris, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. After what I have to believe was a very big Friday for you. A lot of numbers were up. I was out there. The crowd was tremendous. Thoughts on opening day with Saratoga?
Well, Brian, first off, it's great to be here. Glad
you.
to have you guys here again this year. And it was a great opening day. We were blessed with great weather, and I think everybody had a great time. And our numbers were very strong. I think it was one of our second highest handle in the last 5 to 7 years, and the second highest attendance in the last 5 to 7 years. And just a great day all the way around. The
weather certainly cooperated. I know that's it can be dicey here in Saratoga Springs in the summer. Just looking at the numbers now, announced attendance 33,714, which was up almost 1,000 from last year. 20 million overall handle, just down to a tiny peg, but I think a number you'll like to talk about. 5.4 million handle on track,
right.
Almost 8%. That's a monster number, Chris.
It was. You're right. And that's the great thing. You know, when we look about, well, what are the metrics? To me, on-track handle is one of the most important, because that says two things. It says, number one, you've got a lot of people coming here because they want to enjoy the day and they appreciate the racing.
Sure.
Number two, it says they stay on track a lot longer.
Right.
And why do you stay on track a lot longer? Because we have something for everyone all day long for you to do.
Yeah, and I think that's a good segue into what I'd like to talk about. And I know that's probably top of your list, no pun intended either, but the top of the stretch debuted yesterday. I went up there first time, not knowing really what to expect. A couple friends were up there. I went to stay high, middle of the day. And Chris, frankly, to be honest with you, I was blown away by the job you guys did. Was really impressed with all the upper echelon at NYRA, greeting people over there and kind of shaking hands and kissing babies. It's got to be very close to your heart what you guys did up there in an area. I think, let's maybe be honest, with the exception of maybe Travers Day and maybe opening day or a few other days, not necessarily the most popular part at the track. So you had a very innovative idea to basically revolutionize that area. Talk to the audience about what they could expect up there and what you've got going on. And I also think, Chris, that had to play into the on-track handle, because very new age technology up there as well.
Exactly. So thank you very much for those kind comments. And it was a great collaborative effort with a lot of those executives you saw yesterday and their teams.
And here we've got some photos of it too.
These are artist renderings. So we have 3 different kinds of social boxes or field boxes. The one you're hearing is called the elongated one, where you have, as you can see, 3 tables. They're a half moon table, and then there are 4 chairs for each one. And the idea in this particular area is you can mingle about with your friends. There's no requirement to wear a coat and tie, but you have the enjoyment of a box. There are 2 other box configurations. One of them is called the tiered box, and you'll see, this one right here shows the banquettes. This is called the lounge box. As you'll see, there are no traditional seats. Instead, what you've got are sofas or banquettes for everybody there. You mentioned the technology. You can see those 15-inch iPads, and you can actually pull that iPad out. It rotates left, right, up, and down, and so it makes it easy for anybody sitting in that area. And what you can do on those iPads is you can do just about everything. You can buy tickets, you can reserve parking, you can order food, and it's delivered to your seat. You can wager on NYRA bets. You can see either video from prior races on NYRA Now, or you can watch the exact race in front of you. There's only a 1-second delay now. It used to be about 4 seconds. We've shortened it dramatically with a new piece of equipment. And of course, when you see those horses in front of you, that's one of the most critical times of the race.
Absolutely.
As they make that turn.
Right.
So it's been fantastic. Also, we've got a tremendous bar and a massive video wall. And it's all available for the people that are in that section,
Sure.
as well as dedicated kitchen and bathrooms.
And that's something I want to hit on too, because at the start, when this concept was kind of breached to the public, and seats went on for sale and stuff, we weren't necessarily sure if you didn't have a little box, could you go in or not. But it is open and available for people to go in, obviously to purchase a ticket, but you can go in. The bar, I thought the bar was phenomenal. As maybe a guy that likes to visit a bar or two, I thought it was really laid back. And the other thing I really enjoyed about it, obviously, on days like that at the track, when there's 30,000 people here, you can get a little tight. The spaciousness of that area, I thought was great too, because obviously it was very, very crowded, but you still had plenty of room to maneuver. You could bet anywhere in the facility. I thought that was really neat too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was part of one of the ideas, is that we want to bring young people to the track. And young people don't like to sit in any one seat. They like to move around. So, for example, you can see here the bar area. There is a lot of open space for people to congregate.
Yes.
And that's the idea. And we have area. You can see also there's a pickup area for food to the left. There's a large area around there as well to congregate. And then, of course, you can see the bar area, and then there's a massive video wall. So it's all designed for people to mill around, be social, have a lot of fun. Now, this is for the people that are in that area. It's a restricted access area, and the response has been phenomenal. So we put the season boxes and season tickets on sale, and we had all the boxes sold.
I was
going to
say it's been phenomenal support from the fans, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But we did hold back 10 to 15% of that inventory on a daily basis.
Okay.
So even if you wanted to be at the bar,
Yeah.
we have 21 seats at the bar. 16 were sold on a season pass basis. 4 are available on a daily basis.
Okay.
So go to NYRA.com or the ticket office, or go to Ticketmaster if you want to go for a particular day. But this has become so popular so quickly that I urge people to do it
quick.
now.
Yeah, and like I said, I couldn't compliment it enough, especially as you mentioned, trying to get younger people in the game, the day and age of, you can wager on your phone now. It's the instant return that people want. The one question I did want to ask you is Saratoga such an old, ancient, historic facility plant? It's got to be very at the top of your list, the balance of the old and new. So to keep Saratoga old and pristine as it once was, but yet introduce something like this. Talk a little bit about trying to, the even keel, balancing old and new.
Right, and that is very important to me personally as well as our organization.
Yeah.
And so what we've been able to do is put this 21st century amenity within the existing confines of the building, so the architectural integrity of this beautiful place is intact. And we worked with the Saratoga Springs Preservation Society. We have an architect here locally, Matt Herf, who did all the work, because we treasure this building and the architecture. And so it fits in beautifully. You don't know it's there until you walk inside.
Right.
If I could also just mention another point, as far as the history and the architecture, we've made one other significant change this year that most people won't notice. We started a few years ago putting copper.
Yep, that was you. Perfect segue to my next question. Go right ahead. Tell us that, because that's got to be a pretty neat innovation too.
It is. So a few years ago, I guess it was my first year, 2013.
Okay.
It was a very hot day, you may recall. And I went up to what was then called the upper carousel and had the red and white awnings. And so it cast a pink hue for everybody underneath.
Right.
And it was warm because you really couldn't put too many fans in because it was a temporary structure. Well, we began by first going to that area and putting copper in, back the way it was before the awnings were put in the 70s. And then we put copper roof over the new escalator. And now we have copper going from one end of the building, from the Easy Goer, all the way to the Club Terrace. And the reason we did that is to provide a better experience, so you don't have all those aluminum stanchions, and you have a clean view, you don't have a pink hue. But most importantly, what people don't understand is that when you take those awnings down in September, it snows, it rains, the wind blows, and that moisture can destroy the concrete we walk on. More importantly, it goes back into the building and then down into the infrastructure and begins to rust some of our supporting beams. By doing this, we've been told it will extend the life and use of the building by an additional 50 years.
That's great. And I'm sure not a lot of people get to see Saratoga out of season, but this is very skeleton-like in that everything kind of comes down. Right. And you're right, you still have to preserve everything because winter in Saratoga is not a lot of fun for sure. You just celebrated 5 years with NYRA, so your fifth Saratoga. How about when you first started to where we are today here at Saratoga? There's got to be things that I'm sure the top of the stretch is one of them, but things you're most proud about from the kind of the day you took over the ship and where we are today.
Well, thank you. We basically said, look, there are a number of things we could do with this organization. If we try to do all of them, we won't do any of them. So we focused on 3 strategic initiatives. And for each one, we said we're going to achieve this much in year 1, and that will be the floor for year 2.
Right.
And whatever the ceiling is for year 2 becomes the floor for year 3. And it was to enhance the guest experience both on track and online. And I'm extremely pleased with what we've been able to do over the last 5 years. You see we have the Walk of Fame, we've got 4-Star Dave, the sports bar, we've got the stretch, we've got the Kid Zone, which is fantastic for the kids. We've built Horse Sense, so you can actually touch a horse. We put in an additional 475 picnic tables in the backyard. So all that's been great. Online, we now have a television program that is broadcast live across America at 75 million homes. We have, I think, 225 hours of live broadcasting, so that's been great. We returned to private control. We paid off the debt. That was great. And now we've been able to make some wonderful changes here, and we're on the cusp of doing the same at Belmont. We're so excited that the New York Islanders will be building an arena in our current parking lot, and it's going to become one of the finest sports and entertainment districts in the country in a few years.
That's a good, a couple more before we let you go on what I know is a busy day. You mentioned Belmont. There's going to be a lot of changes at Belmont, and when that happens, that directly affects Saratoga. A lot of talk maybe expansion, and so not only maybe expansion of the meet, but what does the future hold? Do you see any other changes coming for Saratoga? You mentioned getting younger people into the game. Obviously, top of the stretch is key to that, and I think is going to work wonders for that. Are there other changes coming, even if we don't expand Saratoga, or do? Are there other things on the horizon?
There are. So one of the next construction we'll be doing here is the creation of a new building. We're going to call it the 1863 Club, and it will be at the end of the clubhouse. So right now we have a tent called At the Rail. This will be a 3-story building. It'll have an 11,000. There's a picture. It'll have an 11,000 square foot kitchen in the basement, and then 3 floors. The first floor will be banquet-like dining. The second floor will be a combination of 2 different rooms. One will hold anywhere from 120 to 160 people. So for big group events or for syndicate ownership meetings, it'll be perfect. The side closest to the clubhouse will be a club for box holders who want to have lunch or in the middle of the day get out of the heat and have a drink. And the third floor will be 6 truly luxury suites. And so it's going to be something truly new and different. Now, it's going to be a new building, but it's going to be tied to the architectural integrity of the old.
I was just going to say, you're looking at this sketch here, and the roof obviously stands out, and while it's modern down below, you can see the roof in comparison to the grandstand roof, and again, it goes back to my question and your point of keeping everything kind of along that same line.
Right, and you'll notice that this artist rendering, it's many years from now when the copper roof is green. So we started with the copper roof at the old upper level of the carousel, now called the Easy Goer, all the way across the breezeway to the club terrace, and it'll just float nicely into the roof line for the new building.
And that's next year?
We hope.
We hope.
Yeah. You know, weather permitting. That's one of the challenges. You can't start construction until the meet is over. And then the snows come early here in this part of the country.
Well aware of that. I want to get one more before I let you go. We've talked about the overall umbrella and what you've done to improve NYRA, but on a personal level, this is, again, you've been here 5 years now. What do you look forward to at Saratoga? You've seen 2 Triple Crown winners now under your reign. One of them was fortunate enough to run here. 7 weekends at Saratoga, the Travers, obviously, opening weekend, and all the stuff in between, closing weekend. Chris Kay, what does he look forward to the most during Saratoga?
So I think my efforts will be focused on a couple different things.
Okay.
One, I want to see how people like and use the stretch. I'm very interested to see how we can make that better. Did we achieve all of our goals?
Right.
What can we do to make it even better for people next year? Second, we'll be working on the plans and everything else associated with that new building we just described.
Right.
And third, I'll be spending every Tuesday, which is Dark Day,
Sure.
down in New York City,
Okay.
working on the Belmont efforts.
Okay, so you're back and forth quite a bit. Yeah, a lot going on at Saratoga. A very, very busy time of year. Chris, I want to give you the utmost thanks for taking time out of a very busy schedule. Congratulations on a great Friday as well. Saturday, as we sit here now, looks forward to it. And I'm going to give Chris the cap giveaway. We'll talk about the cap giveaway
so this
as
is for
well.
you, actually,
Yes.
Brian.
All right, I
thank
appreciate
you, by
it.
the way, for all your support.
Oh, thank you so
of
much.
NYRA. So on the first Sunday of the meet, it's our
Yes.
traditionally, that's when we have our first giveaway. By the way, Sunday is also the hat contest.
Okay.
And it's incredible.
Which is, yes, a very big deal here at
It
Saratoga.
is.
Yes.
And I mean, not only a big deal in one sense, big deal in another sense.
Very
There's
big
some
deal,
big
right?
deal. But for us guys, we like the baseball
Yes.
caps. And this is the one for this year. I think it's very sharp.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
that is yours.
All right, I appreciate
to wear
that.
with pride.
I appreciate that.
And yeah, it's going to be a great meet. We have a great start
Sure.
to it. We're always, appreciative of good weather.
Yes.
We can't control the weather.
Well, and that's big here in Saratoga, as you not only for the fans, but let's just the bottom line, the betting dollar, the handle, keeping races on turf and stuff like that. So
it is.
Yeah.
And we've been blessed. No
Sure.
question, we've been blessed in so many ways. We did have an incident a couple of years ago where we had to cancel the
I was
second
sitting
half
right
of that,
here.
yeah, that Saturday card on Four Star Day because it just came out of nowhere. Kind of reminded me of the storms I
Right.
experienced in Florida. But yet we were able to bounce back.
Yeah.
We were able to move some of those races and were able to, in fact, we almost broke a new record that year despite having lost half
Right.
a day. So we hope we'll enjoy good weather,
Yeah.
but we can predict people enjoy a good time when they do come.
And I think yesterday was a perfect example of we're off to a great start with that, not only attendance-wise, handle-wise here on track was phenomenal. As I mentioned, top of the stretch. Check it out, folks. If you haven't yet, get up here, check it out. It is just, I can't say enough the great job they've done with it. It's just revolutionary, and I think it's going to be a ginormous success. Chris, I want to thank you so much
Thank you,
for
Brian.
stopping by, taking time out of a busy day. Chris Kay, ladies and gentlemen, President, CEO of NYRA. It's going to bring us to our first break here on Saturdays at the Spa. When we come back, Brad Cox, trainer of Monomoy Girl, favorite in tomorrow's Coaching Club America Oaks. Stay tuned.
Saratoga's back, and so are Capital OTB's special Saratoga bankrolls. Now's your chance to team up with one of Capital OTB's handicappers and win big at Saratoga. 50 players will be randomly chosen from online entries, and new account holders can double their chances with our Bet 100 Get 100 promotion. So don't miss your chance to win big at Saratoga. For details and to be part of one of the bankroll teams, visit CapitalOTB.com. In a recent study of some of the top online wagering sites, Capital OTB won big in total player rewards, far surpassing some of the best-known wagering sites in America. While other rewards programs simply offer you points redeemable for gift cards, Capital OTB's rebates are paid to you in actual cash. Plus, Capital OTB gives you full and immediate access to your money. So if all you're getting now are points and gift cards, join Capital OTB Player Rewards today and get cash back. Visit CapitalOTBBet.com and sign up today.
For 4 generations, Bruce Cerrone and his family have continued the 96-year tradition of delighting their local following and faithful summer crowd with the finest authentic Italian recipes. Classic Italian dishes made with the freshest ingredients and served in a home-like setting where everyone is welcome. Some things have changed in the last 96 years, but not Pinnell's commitment to the finest in Italian cuisine. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, just minutes from the track.
Welcome back, Saturdays at the Spa. Brian Nato with you. We just had Chris Kay, and we really appreciate him stopping by. It's a busy weekend, busy meet, obviously, for him, and taking the time and laying things out, what's been going on here at Saratoga in the future as well. But my next guest is back to the horseman side of things, and we bring in Brad Cox. Brad, I appreciate you joining us here today, the trainer of Monomoy Girl, who is going to be favored tomorrow in the Coaching Club America Oaks, and without a doubt, Brad, the undisputed leader in the 3-year-old filly division. So congratulations on the job you've done with her, and welcome.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks for having me.
Exciting time here at Saratoga. But first, before we get into Monomoy Girl and the development of her, you've been in this game for quite a while. I think at least maybe up here in Saratoga, you're a relatively new face on the scene, and I think she certainly brought you to a national scene. But growing up right in Louisville, Kentucky, just minutes from the track basically, and didn't necessarily start out as a guy that wanted to get into racing, but as it happens quite a bit, it got steeped in you pretty quickly.
Yeah, when you get bit by the bug, you're screwed. You're stuck. So you can't get out once you're in. But no, obviously Louisville's home for me.
Sure.
It's home base, and that's where our home base is. But we've been coming to Saratoga for 5 years. Really enjoyed it. It's top-notch racing, probably the best meet in the country. So we try to come in here and be effective.
Started out basically your first, call it big break, working for Dallas Stewart, and then talk a little bit about your path to where you are today. Obviously out on your own, coming up through the ranks. How did you get here today?
Well, I started, like most people started, just walking horses of the morning, and then onto a groom, then a foreman. I think I had a groom/foreman position with Jimmy Baker, which was a New York assistant for Sugar McGee and David Whiteley for a long time. So learned a lot with those guys, Jimmy Baker, and then on to Dallas, where I spent nearly 5 years with him, and that was a very educational experience, and learned a lot along the way. And then took the jump around 2005.
Right.
And it was a struggle for a long time. Spending winters at Turfway Park, and obviously being based in Louisville, that was my home, Churchill, and just took a while to get going, and you live and you learn. And,
yeah.
This is a game where it seems like you're constantly learning things. Trying to figure each individual horse out, and try to tailor a program toward them.
How many did you start out with?
Oh,
I'm sure it was very hands-on back then, I would think.
Absolutely. I was cooling the horses. It's almost like when you start training, you go back to doing what you first started, because you're obviously trying to save money and walk horses yourself. I mean, you're able to do that when you start out, because it depends on how many you start with. But I think I started with like 3 or 4, and then I think after a few months we may have got up to like 16 or 17, and it's kind of a trickle down effect, or not. Shouldn't say trickle down effect, but the numbers kind of go up and down. They went up and down for a long time. Right.
I've always said, we do this handicappers report before we do this show, and picking races here at Saratoga, and you kind of arrived here 3 or 4 years ago. Did you say 5th year here, I believe?
Yes, 5th
okay.
summer.
So,
yes.
And I said, I made this comparison because I think a lot of people weren't familiar with Brad Cox, because you were more Midwest, and then you came up here, and I think you had, you went like 3 for 11 that first maybe breakthrough meet, or you won some races, and I made the comparison that you were very similar to Chad Brown in that you were doing everything really well, but I think you needed that one horse for people to really say, wow, this guy knows what he's doing, and he's on his way. Has Monomoy Girl, as we kind of take to the present now, and a multiple Grade 1 winner, 1 year first Grade 1 with her, is she the horse that kind of has brought you to the national level, whereas maybe you were more, obviously well known in the Midwest, you mentioned Kentucky. Is she now the horse that has brought you to the national level?
Well, yeah, she's obviously the most accomplished horse we've had, and yeah, probably put us on more of a national stage, as opposed to, like you said before, her being more of a regional Midwest, maybe a little East Coast. But without a doubt, she's definitely been a horse that's put us on a national stage, and herself on a national stage. And like I was reading something the other day, like if she's able to get a victory on Sunday, and she's going to be possibly it's 4 Grade 1s as a 3-year-old filly.
Right.
If she can get it done, I mean, it would be an amazing a feat, accomplishment, and, you know, maybe go down as one of the better 3-year-old fillies we've had.
Yeah, for sure.
In a while.
Started out 3 for 3 and then lost her only race by a neck, mind you, too. Obviously, you've had her since the start. Did she tout herself as this kind of horse? You've been around horses for a long time. You've been around a lot of good horses, Dallas, through the years. A lot of people, you know, you talk to say you just know they separate themselves. You get Monomoy Girl. Did she do that?
Not in the beginning.
Not in the beginning. You're almost like laughing a little bit.
Yeah,
like,
because I've been asked that question a lot. And then, you know, obviously this group of 2-year-olds has come in, and, you know, I just keep in mind, like, you know, she did not separate herself. She was very green, you know, looked at a lot of things. But, you know, right before she run in the Rags to Riches, we had worked her with some decent fillies. I think it was back in October of her 2-year-old year. And she worked really, really well, and then obviously she performed the way she did in the Rags to Riches, and that's when we really started taking notice. And I mean, obviously we took notice, but it was like, this could be a really good filly. You know, obviously her speed figures come back really fast from the Rags to Riches, and we thought, you know, and we thought there could be some, you know, I mean, we just really started her on the grass just because I wanted to run her long. She wasn't really fast out of the gate, so I thought, you know, if I run her 3/4 on the dirt, she's going to get left.
Right.
I'd like, you know, and she didn't break great first time, so, you know, it wasn't so much we thought she needed the grass, it was more of a distance thing.
Okay.
We're starting her long.
Yeah, I think you see that a lot. You see horses like that at Ellis. They've got the 2-turn races there. You see that a lot. So now you end 2017, obviously, with what you think is one of the better 2-year-old fillies. And then I would assume, in the perfect world, you plot backwards to the Kentucky Oaks. And as it rarely happens in racing, you really didn't miss a beat on the way there. You aired in the Ashland, your first Grade 1 win as a trainer. We're going to bring up footage of the Kentucky Oaks. So she goes to the Kentucky Oaks, wasn't favored. A 1 1/8 at Churchill Downs can be pretty demanding at this time of the year. Any concerns about it? Obviously, she was proven very tactical, be placed wherever. I thought this was a very, very game performance, Brad, to dig down Wonder Gadot. We know she's a pretty classy filly.
Yeah, without a doubt, it's a big time performance for her to dig back in, and then get her head in front. And you know, there was a lot made of her breaking from the 14 hole going into the race, but it's like I told someone the other day. I was telling Dave Grinning from DRF that I haven't heard a whole lot about, hey, you know, I hear some things about some other horses in the race having some trouble trips, and I thought, you know, well, you know, she won this race from the 14 hole.
Right.
So it was wide both turns, or wide going into the first turn, going 1 1/8 for the first time. So that was a huge performance. She come out of it in good order. Obviously onto the Acorn, but as you said earlier, you know, at the end of last year, we thought, you know, this could be the best 3-year-old filly in the country, and everything just went really well with her. I mean, she has not missed a beat. I mean, she's not missed a work. Kind of mapped out a plan for her going into the Rachel Alexandra, and she's just checked off all the boxes and asked everything. She's done everything we've asked of her. So she's just a very solid filly that shows up and gives you what she's got week in, week out.
I'm sure winning the Ashland, a very historic race in and of itself at Keeneland, was a big deal, but as a guy that, you know, was running around Churchill Downs as a younger guy, and to win the Kentucky Oaks at his home track, I mean, it had to be a phenomenal feeling.
Yeah, it was, and it was the best, biggest accomplishment we've had to date, and very proud of the filly and what she accomplished. And yeah, it's like I told someone the other day, it was a very competitive race. I mean, she had to dig down to win. It was an exciting race. It wasn't if she turned for home by 5 and she won by 10.
And wasn't even favored in the race, so I think that shows how just competitive it was.
Exactly. You know, it was a very solid group of fillies, and you know, as far as Mark Cassie's filly goes, I mean, I watched her train going into that race that week, and she was training extremely well. And I thought to myself, I said, this filly's going to be tough. I mean, she was just on the bridle, galloping aggressively every day and looked great and moving extremely well, and she's obviously come back to win the Queen's Plate. So you know, the race has obviously been a key race, and it was a solid group of fillies.
We'll bring up the stretch run of the Acorn as well, and just speaks to her versatility to cut back from a 2-turn 9-furlong race at Churchill Downs to what can be a very snappy 1-turn mile at Belmont Park, and another just really monster performance. Just keeps doing it too. It's hard to keep running huge races, but as we're going to see here, as she comes off the far turn, You know, and I had a lot of respect for Talkworth to me as well, and she's a pretty nice filly. Your gal, once again, does it impressively.
Yeah, big performance here. You know, Florent did a good job of just kind of letting the fillies in front just kind of, you know, soften each other up just a little bit. He set in a good spot. Give this filly that runs second a good bit of weight that day. I think we're giving her 8 pounds, which was big. You know, this filly, that's obviously just the second race around 1 turn. She obviously shown she can handle that, with the race being the Rags to Riches at Churchill, the 2-year-old. So we thought that, you know, we didn't think there would be any negative with the 1-turn mile. We actually like that. So I think she's a filly that would like Belmont, or does like Belmont, and would handle it. So it worked out well.
That brings us to tomorrow. You beat Midnight Bijou, who was the favorite in the Kentucky Oaks, but you know, in the What Have You Done For Me Lately world of racing, you got to do it again tomorrow, and she looked really good. As I'm sure you saw, winning the Mother Goose, first start for Steve Asmussen. I don't want to call it a match race tomorrow, but there's only 5. You're clearly the 2 best. How do you see it shaping up? Just looking at it on paper, being outside her, I think gives you an edge. Do you envision any kind of trip, or let it fall as it may?
It's probably play the break.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, obviously 2 good jocks, Mike Smith and Florent. You know, it's a very, very nice filly for Jeff Bloom. Wish him luck. I've got a couple horses for Jeff back in Kentucky, and she's obviously in a great camp with Asmussen. You know, she's a nice filly. She performed extremely well, as everyone saw in the Mother Goose, and I'm sure she's set up for a big effort tomorrow. You know, obviously we'll see what happens with the track and the weather. That may play a little bit of a role as to, you know, how aggressive we want to be out of the gate, but just kind of see how the, you know, what happens with the weather, the track condition, and how it's playing, and how wet it is, and just kind of, you know, talk about it.
And as Brad is kind of hinting at, it is supposed to rain overnight. I think maybe as race day comes tomorrow, it might not be too bad. You have yet to race over a wet track. Any concerns as she trained over it in the morning? Do you worry about things like that, or is it out of your control?
Well, it's out of my control, first of all, so I don't worry about it. I honestly, this filly's honest. I mean, she's run on the dirt, or the turf, which sometimes indicates a horse may take to wet track, for what that's worth. She's a filly that's, you know, shipped to several tracks. It's not like, I mean, she's won at the fairgrounds, Keeneland, Churchill, Belmont, Indiana. So I mean, you know, she gives you what she's got, and I also like that, you know, obviously wet track, but she's a filly that has speed. I mean, those horses, you know, once again, speed seems to be good on a wet track. So, you know, if we were a closer, it might be an issue. But no, I don't really think it'll play a big role in getting a good performance out of her.
One more before you go. I know you're going to school one here shortly. I would think she's opened a lot of doors for you. I mean, I saw you had a horse from Juddmonte at Keeneland. Is this the one that has really given you new clients, new eyes on your stable, and people are really taking notice?
Well, sure. I mean, you know, we picked up Juddmonte last fall. It's been a good run with it. Those guys really appreciate the opportunity they've given us, and but yeah, no, it's definitely given us an opportunity to pick up. She's definitely given us an opportunity to pick up, you know, top clients and quality horses, and it's you know, it can only be a positive when you have a filly like this in the market.
How many do you have up here this summer?
We have 24 in Oklahoma, and on the market.
Can you give me a 2-year-old that we should be looking for?
I can't yet.
Okay.
I wish I could, but I can't make one up right now.
All right, we'll take a look.
Tight on those.
All right, I appreciate it. Brad Cox, ladies and gentlemen, he's going to have the favorite tomorrow, Monomoy Girl, coaching Club America Oaks, without a doubt the top 3-year-old filly in the country. Brad, I appreciate you taking time to stop over, and best of luck as well. And what I want to do is, as well, I want to give you a gift certificate for Jacob and Anthony's right in town, $100 gift certificate. Great happy hour over there, great dinner menu over there. As you can see, right in town, 38 High Rock Avenue. Dinner over there is phenomenal, really cool place, not too far away from downtown, right in the mix, basically, in downtown. So I want you to check it out. Really appreciate you stopping by. Best of luck tomorrow. It's going to bring us to our second break on Saturdays at the Spot. When we come back, Travis Stone, track announcer, Churchill Downs, voice of the Kentucky Derby, is going to join us. Talk a little Pick 4 here at Saratoga. Stay tuned.
Sign up today for Capital OTB's handicapping series and plan your trip to Las Vegas.
Summer at Saratoga, and there's no better place to watch all the racing action than right here on OTB TV. Each morning, the Handicappers Report brings you selections and analysis from our professional handicappers. Then stick around as the biggest names in racing join us live from the backstretch. The top trainers, jockeys, and racing personalities all share their unique insights and observations. For more than 20 years, there's been just one place to turn for unparalleled coverage of the Saratoga Racing Meet: Capital OTB and OTB TV.
Funding your Capital OTB bet account is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Easy Money. Clearly the fastest and easiest method of depositing funds into your account. Make deposits or withdrawals in just minutes. 2. Green Dot Money Pack. Gives you instant access to your funds. Green Dot Money Packs are available at thousands of retailers nationwide. And 3. MasterCard Visa. Simply click on the link from the funding page, enter your account information, and fund your account. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Welcome back. Saturdays at the Spa. Brian Nadeau with you again. Great. Really appreciate Chris Kay, CEO and president of NYRA, stopping by, and then Brad Cox with some good insight. Monomoy Girl favored tomorrow. Coaching Club America Oaks, obviously the top 3-year-old filly in the country. And if you're thinking about coming up tomorrow, please do, because it offers a really exciting matchup of probably the two best 3-year-old fillies in the country, Monomoy Girl and Midnight Bijou. And I'll bring in my last guest of the day, Travis Stone, who's pretty familiar with Monomoy Girl as the voice of Churchill Downs, calling her winning the Kentucky Oaks as well.
Well, what a nice filly she
Yeah.
is. Actually, and as nice as she is, Midnight Bijou with a big breakout performance last time is going to set the stage for an interesting fall. I think Monomoy Girl's better, but it's no pushover.
Yeah, and as I said to Brad in the what have you done lately for me world of racing, yeah, she beat her in the Oaks, and she's got 3 Grade 1 wins now. But as you mentioned, first time with Steve in the Mother Goose, and she didn't beat anybody. But my goodness, she looked awesome doing it. And as you mentioned, it sets it up tomorrow. Midnight Bijou was a decent third in the Oaks. Didn't have the best of trips that day, and
a little flat.
Yeah, a little flat. I
Yeah.
think that's fair, and probably left with too much to do, with not necessarily anybody's fault, but in a 5-horse race. It's going to be a fun race tomorrow. We're going to get to today's big late pick 4 in a second, but it's going to be a fun race tomorrow in that there's only 5 right now. And as I said to Brad, I said, I don't want to call it a match race, but let's just be honest, it's a match race. And when you have that kind of thing, you've got a lot of jockeying going on, and it's a jockey's race.
You know what I would say, though? I think Monomoy Girl's biggest asset is this is such an oversaid saying, but she's push button.
Yeah.
She can go wherever Flo needs her to be, and she can move whenever he needs her to move. She's got all the workings of a horse that can just adapt to any pace scenario, and it feels like no matter what happens tomorrow, I think the only thing that would get her beat is some sort of random suicide speedway setup, or she just happened to be flat. Or, it is Saratoga. Saratoga sometimes a quirky surface for some, but we'll see.
Yeah, and the weather could play into a factor as well. I should have said this at the start. We might introduce a little bit of handicapping here at the end of Saturdays at the Spa. We're very fortunate up here throughout the course of the summer to have some of the bigger names in the world of handicapping. I know Travis has done a lot of talking horses with NYRA and is very, very sharp, and I think maybe that's not as well known, being that you're the voice of the Kentucky Derby, but certainly Travis is as sharp as they come. Nick Tamero is going to be up here. Jonathan Kitchen I saw yesterday. We're going to try to get him on. Of course, our good buddy Peter Thomas Fornatal, the greatest character in the history of horse racing.
Truly a race
is
tracker.
Up here, right? Truly a race tracker.
Yep.
So it's a good segue here, and the reason I wanted Travis on today, it's a good pick 4 today. It's a tough pick 4. They're going to send it in. The handle yesterday was phenomenal. The pool sizes were huge, and I think especially, Travis, the bookends in the pick 4 are tough. The 8th and the 11th first race, 5.5. It's a 1X allowance sprinting on the turf. I had like 5 of them in here that I thought could win, and I still might not have the winner. We're going to bring up Travis's ticket here in a second, and you can show kind of which way he's leaning. Here it is here, not necessarily in order, but there it is there. Race 8, tough, snappy 5.5 on the turf. How'd you see it?
I mean, I don't know if I still see it
Yeah.
in any sort of particular way. I'm curious what you thought. So Saratoga, when the turf courses early on in the meet, they sometimes tend to get a little bit on the front side.
Yeah.
Horses can keep on going, and particularly when the rails come down and the inside is fresh. I don't know if I necessarily saw any sort of turf, I don't want to say bias, but profile yesterday, but it did feel like horses trying to make up ground on the turf. It was an effort. They had to work hard to do so. I'm using 4 horses in here, the 1, 2, 5, and 10. I do think there's plenty of speed, and it gets to the point where you have to decide, do you want speed of the speed, do you want to play some sort of closer? So I gravitated to the obvious ones. I thought Battle Joint on the outside for Mark Hennig was a very sharp winner last time out in a fast-paced race, according to metrics that I use, with 2 good workouts coming out of that. She's going to sit a good outside trip.
Right.
I thought, ultimately, she might be one of the ones to beat.
I want you to talk about that, too, because, that's another reason why I wanted to have, guys on like you who are not necessarily just looking at paper. You mentioned the metrics. Where are you coming up with your opinions predominantly? What are you using, video work, things like that, as opposed to just looking at the form, writing some numbers down?
I think in a gambling game, you're supposed to use whatever you can get your hands on. So I use a lot of replays. I watch replays of all the major contenders and all the races. If I'm playing seriously, I'm doing all the work I need to do on that front. I use Timeform US to determine whether or not. What I like most about their product is they highlight running lines, blue and red. Red meaning it was a fast pace, blue meaning it was a slower pace, and how horses ran against or with those favorable setups. I use a lot of formulator to do some trainer stat work and breeding work, especially here at Saratoga, those lightly raced horses that are so frequently running.
And that's actually a pretty good way to get to the Sanford race 9. We're going to pull up a couple videos here. These are the 2-year-olds, so you mentioned the breeding first and foremost. You called some of these races down at Churchill Downs, so you saw some of these horses right up close and personal. And we'll bring up the video of one of them, Chase Greatness, last time for Big Time Connections to Horatio DePaz and Sagamore Farm, breaking his maiden in the slop, though, June 21st at Churchill. But you wanted this video to be pulled up. What about this horse here with a big number out of that race that day as well? What kind of tipped you off a little bit to him at what should be a price in here, too?
Yeah, so the runner-up in that race, Carter Cat, you can see on the board, was actually 4-5, was highly regarded, one of the talked-about horses all week long. Now, I get it. This was a sloppy track, and there's some concerns that maybe the slop moved this horse up. But we are talking about lightly raised 2-year-olds, and I don't think you can discount the experience edge enough. Chase Greatness, first career start, didn't get the gate all that well, was a little bit of green, typical debut effort. Right. I thought showed tremendous poise in its second career start against a horse, as I said, that was highly regarded. I like that sort of dug in late, didn't let the other one get by, and has passed a horse before. And when you start to look through these PPs, you have a lot of horses with 1s in their running lines.
I think that's huge.
And soft paces in some of them as well. They have to show that they can pass horses. This horse has done so. I thought it was going to offer a little bit of value in a very competitive race.
And the other thing, too, is a lot of these horses, especially for barns, you see Asmussen here, Pletcher, obviously Cassie. These horses, they're precocious. They're trained to win on debut. They break running. They speed pop the field. They don't learn a thing.
Nope.
They don't have any adversity whatsoever. I think it's important, and as you noted, Chase Greatness has passed horses. I went Lexingtonian Sambaye here. We're going to talk about Sambaye in a second. But I always think it's a big deal when you see a 2-year-old in May, June, even July, show the ability to pass horses, because again, in these races with short fields, top connections that want an immediate return on investment, all they do is break running. They don't figure anything out in these races.
No, and it's a big learning game when you get 7 or 8 of them in the gate sprinting at Saratoga. You get the crowd, you got the elements of the horse race going on. The experience is a huge edge when it comes to these.
But talk a little bit. He's not in your mix necessarily. Bono Solo, you obviously called him winning on debut at Churchill. He was well bet that day. He's got Asmussen on the outside. Any interest there, Santana? It's a good combo. I like the fact. I thought Strike Silver was playable in here too. Another horse you saw. At least if nothing else, they're outside, and I think prices at least on Bono Solo. Any interest there?
Yeah, so Bono Solo is what I called him in his debut. It's funny. So David Fisk, who's the racing manager for Winchell, sent me a message on Twitter before the race. I didn't get it till after. It's Bagno solo.
Okay. All right,
and there's a story there. It's like, what?
I don't feel as bad if you
I got it wrong.
Right?
It's the story. I believe, and don't quote me on this, Steve would say that when they were bathing Gunrunner because he was always out there by himself when he bathed Bagno. So anyway, Bagno solo is well regarded in the debut. Ran well. I wanted to throw him in for that. Strike Silver beat Nitrous.
Yes, and
who is a super highly regarded 2-year-old.
And is in earlier.
Today. So pay attention to how Nitrous runs on the comeback there. So look, I mean, I could have used all in here and still felt uncomfortable that I would have missed somebody. I liked the outside element of this. I think these field races at Saratoga, if you're down inside, you really have to be sharp to win.
Well, here we go then. Down inside, but Sambaya, you won the footage of the Tremont. Was a pretty good second in the Tremont, I thought. Passing horses, too. Was 6th early. Here we're going to see it here. He's well back for Starlight Racing, familiar with the colors down inside.
Yellow cap.
Yeah, Javier is here. Pletcher, obviously, breaking from the rail, but here he is here closing and tipping out a little bit. I thought it was a pretty big run.
It was a good effort. I mean, it was a pretty good trip, all things considered. Didn't get out of the gate that well, and that's, fine. I think the way the race flow shook out, that was okay. The only thing I didn't like is right at about here, it felt like this was a little bit of a hungry race and sort of needed every sort of perfect trip effort just to get up for second. So I'm a little skeptical, but it's Todd Pletcher, it's a 2-year-old. The horses, past some horses, ran well last time. You cannot lose pick 4s to horses like Sombaye, but I thought there was enough there to maybe say, use some others and see what happens.
Yeah, and we talked yesterday about the Schuylerville, and I basically had it wrong. But I always think when these gals and colts are stretching from 5 to 6, there can be a lot of leg weariness in the lane.
Yep.
And typically I want those that are looking like they can run on. You would think Todd's are going to do that in here, but as you mentioned, the rail's a little tricky. We move on to the Diana, the feature. It's only 7 horses in here, but it's a really good renewal, and I think it's a spot where you can go a few different ways. You talk about Sister Charlie a little bit. We're going to bring up footage of the New York, which was just a really funky race in that, there was a ginormous, look at here, horse, 30 lengths in front, basically, Fahan Mura. Sister Charlie outmoved, maybe? I don't know.
You can see her on the far turn. She's the green cap. She's tipping out right behind her stablemate there, who ends up winning the race. I felt, first off, like you said, it was just goofy, right? This horse runs off early. They're gapped out. You need binoculars to even watch it on TV. On the far turn, 4-Star Crook was just a little sharper, a little closer, and got the jump on her. And you can see here when they get to the wire, I think if Sister Charlie was able to move with her earlier, she actually wins this race. And she's got go-back races. First off, her first start in America in the Belmont Oaks was solid. Then she came back. Her Jenny Wiley.
I thought it was awesome.
Her Jenny Wiley at Keeneland might have been the single best turf performance we've seen this year. She absolutely tore their faces off. She was fantastic. And so I'm willing to forgive the loss last time out. I really like her
Let's
today.
bring up Travis's ticket again here as we talk through the Diana. It's talking about the Wiley here, and here it is. So he's singled on Sister Charlie. I always got the impression this was a filly that wanted more ground. And the Jenny Wiley, Kentucky's obviously close to you. You're in on Keeneland every day. It was a cracker of a turf race. And I just thought off that layoff, and the layoff is the Belmont Oaks into the Jenny Wiley. So we're talking July to April at a sharp 1.16 at Keeneland. I said there's just no way she's winning today with longer on the horizon. She was phenomenal. I think the cutback isn't going to hurt her today because it's going to be a truer run race, meaning she's going to be closer. And as you mentioned, that Jenny Wiley, and it wasn't like they flew around the racetrack that day.
No, the pace was actually fairly moderate, if not even a little bit on the slower. Don't pay attention to the fractions. Keeneland was hard this spring. She ran huge. And she had a little bit of a okay trip, but in turf racing, it's all about when you time your move, and a lot of times you can't make that move and then sustain it. She made the move, she sustained it, and then she tore away from them. I think she's really good, and obviously the horse she beat in there came back to win. A little bit of a better trip in New York. I think I like Sister Charlie because this is the type of race where you can go 3 or 4 deep, and then she wins at 8-5, and you're like, did I really have to use 4 or 5 in here?
The best horse I've tried to beat with 3 other ways. Are you looking at late pace figures in here? A lot of times now, especially, I don't know, it seems to be like the last 5 or 7 years. It doesn't matter how fast or slow you go in a turf race. It's the old whoever can quicken the quickest and they win. Are you looking at late numbers pace numbers, come home times, things like that?
No, this was more of a replay race for me, and to sort of to frame that a little bit, like Proctor's Ledge had a really good trip in the Just a Game. She just wasn't good enough. I'm sort of done with her in these types of spots. I just don't think she fits. Whereas a Raving Beauty at 7-2, 4-1 last time, she had a great trip. She ran well. Last time was a time with her for me. I mean, I'm going to use her sort of as a backup in some of the things. Not in terms of late pace figs, but let's talk early. How does Hawksmoor not get a little bit? We texted earlier.
Yeah,
how does she not get loose?
You were trying to make her a little bit, and if nothing else, she is loose. There's no pace in this race. She's been brave before. I don't necessarily know where her form is at today. I don't necessarily know 9 furlongs against a group like this if she's going to get it done. But you're right. When we talked earlier, she's as loose as they want to be, and I'm not sure I want to see Hawksmoor over a hard turf course out there, freewheeling 48-2 or something like that. She might forget to stop.
How often do we look at the backstretch of a race at the paddock bar and say, well, okay, this race looks pretty much over from here? She stumbled badly at the start last time. Draw a line through that race. There was a fast-paced 2-back. She didn't win. She got beat a nose. And yes, the distance might be a question mark. A recent form might be a question mark. But one thing I'll say, Julien Leparoux gets a lot of flack. For a long time, he was sort of Twitter's bad boy. They would get all sorts of insults in his riding style. There's one thing Julien does really well, and I think is very underrated in, and it's nursing horses on the lead.
when he has that horse that can be put on the lead, that is supposed to be put on the lead. Yeah, I agree with that. He does do a good job. And the good thing with Hawksmoor, if you're a fan today, you don't have to worry about anything. Is she good enough or not? She's going, period. Conversely, with Sister Charlie, pretty pace dependent.
I don't know. Worried? The way she made that move in the Jenny Wiley, I actually think she can sort of do whatever she needs to do. However, the fact she got a little bit outmoved by 4-Star Crook last time out, maybe a minor concern. I also think, Johnny V needs to be a little more aggressive with her, get her into the race a little bit sooner. I do think Sister Charlie wins this race, but there is going to be a backup. Yeah. If she has to run down Hawksmoor, I don't know, maybe you want to be alive to Hawksmoor.
Yeah, it's not. 7-1. Yeah, at a nice. She has to fall through the cracks a little bit. Yep. The finale, I picked Brad Cox on top. He thought this horse would be forwardly placed. It does look like a race where I don't see a lot of speed. How did you come up with the finale in what is, as I mentioned, the first and the last of this pick 4? Not that the middles are easy either. Tough heat in the finale.
I mean, I actually sort of feel like I have absolutely no idea, right? Yeah. I mean, for the purposes of this ticket, I used 5 horses in the pick 4, the 3, 6, 8, 9, 11. Did not use Jess I Am. Totally understand why I should probably use Jess I Am on some tickets. I think Team Colors is one of the ones to beat, but he's marooned way on the outside.
It's a tough post, right?
What are you supposed to do there? Yeah. It does feel like Hieroglyphics is sort of that typical Todd Pletcher put in the right spots, going to run a big race, going to annoy us all when it wins at 5-2 or 3-1. In terms of outside the box ideas, I mean, the horse is only 6-1, so we don't want to get too crazy. But I thought Tweet Kitten's effort 2-back in a fast-paced race over the soft turf at Keeneland was solid. Willing to forgive and forget the most recent start. Second off, bit of a freshening, and I do nothing but respect Mike Maker. I think he's a very underrated trainer. I sort of just threw a blanket over him, and I'm going to hope to get a little bit lucky in this spot. Yeah. And like I said, I wish I had horses like Jess I Am and some of the others in there too.
Thatcher Street, who you've probably called 43 times in your career. I tried to look at him a little bit. He seems like he's going forward. I like the post. He's tactical. Another horse that you didn't use that I wasn't necessarily using either, but 8-10-1. He's and the other thing too, in this kind of a pick 4, you mentioned Tweet Kitten. It says 6-1, but this could be the kind of horse that's 12-1 in the
12
pick
or 15.
4.
Absolutely.
You're talking about a pool that'll probably blow past $1 million. There are a lot of different ways to go. I thought Thatcher Street as a B-level kind of contender, and Tweet Kitten as well. There's a lot of different ways to go. The other thing about Team Colors that I was a little leery of, he wins last time for 50, and he did it he did it well. Can't bump him. He's going to run him right back for 50. I'm not saying they're giving him away for 50, but it seems I don't know, a little disconcerting. I think
maybe the attitude there is a 50 at Saratoga is really like a 75.
Yeah,
so
that's fair.
It's going to be a tougher spot, but that's a brutal post.
It's getting claimed today, right?
People
want
think
to
so.
Can
Some of those back
numbers,
pick them up a couple more starts. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Travis Stone, voice of the Kentucky Derby, racetrack announcer at Churchill Downs, but has done a lot of work with Naira in the past, working with Andy and getting raked over the coals a little bit
You know, time with
winter.
Andy is time well spent.
I don't disagree
for a
with that,
variety of reasons.
in the least. So I want to appreciate Travis Stone stopping by. It's going to bring us to our last break on Saturdays at the Spa. When we come back, we'll wrap it up. Stay tuned.
Sign up today for Capital OTB's handicapping series and plan your trip to Las Vegas.
Pick, bet, and cheer on live racing from Woodbine and Mohawk Park. Thoroughbred and harness action. The wagers are just the beginning. Watch award-winning broadcasts covering both breeds, incredible battles contested over the most unique grass course in North America. Experience the full fields with over 130 thoroughbred and 160 live harness days. Get access to free handicapping material and join the ranks of Woodbine and Mohawk Park players from all over the globe. For more information, visit woodbine.com.
A day at the track isn't complete without a night at the Horseshoe. Great food, hot music, and cold drinks. So why go downtown when all the action's just across from the track? The Horseshoe Inn at the corner of Nelson and Gridley.
Welcome back, Saturdays at the Spot. Brian Nadeau with you, and I can't thank Chris Kay enough for stopping by and kind of giving us a state of Saratoga after a wildly successful Friday, and as I mentioned, top of the stretch, just the stretch, it just looked phenomenal. Check it out if you haven't been up there. They really revolutionized an area of the track that I think it was there kind of for the taking. Just innovative, new age, it's hip, it's for a younger generation, but obviously anybody can go up there and feel at home, and just go check it out, do your due diligence, check it out. Like I said, you can go in there. If you don't have reserved seating, you can still get in there. Really innovative. And then Brad Cox, of course, I want to thank Brad too, as well, trainer of Monomoy Girl, who will be favored tomorrow in the Coaching Club America Oaks, and the top 3-year-old filly in the country. So we look forward to seeing her at Saratoga as we, great matchup tomorrow with Midnight Bijou as well. And they clashed before in the Kentucky Oaks, and Monomoy Girl got the better of her. But again, as I mentioned, what have you done for me lately? They go at it again tomorrow, and Midnight Bijou comes in off a monster win in the Mother Goose, so it sets the stage for a really fascinating matchup between the two best 3-year-old fillies in the country, and a short field, and it gives it that much more intrigue, because I think there's some jockeys kind of race, some volleying in there as well. And then lastly, Travis Stone, the voice of the Kentucky Derby, track announcer at Churchill Downs, but has certainly done a lot of work with Talking Horses, NYRA, over the years. And one of the sharpest handicappers out there, certainly that I know, puts a lot of work in, does a lot of extra work, just aside from looking at the form and numbers and things like that. So I want to thank him for stopping by and giving us his thoughts on the late pick 4 today. And if you didn't kind of get in the loop yesterday, the pools were just phenomenal. They'll probably get over $1 million comfortably in the late pick 4. The early pick 5 yesterday was heady stuff. They even sent it in on the early pick 4, which I think can sometimes get lost in the mix a little bit. So the pools here during Saratoga, as always, will be huge. We've got the Sanford today, the Diana, the grade 1 for the gals on the turf. So a lot of things to look forward to. So again, thank you for my 3 guests. Brian Nadeau with you. We started off here today, Saturday, opening weekend, Saturdays at the Spa. We'll be back each and every Saturday, and one at the end too after we wrap it up. So I look forward to that. Good luck this weekend. Good luck today at Saratoga.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.